The wind howled across the frozen planet. Snowflakes danced like ghosts in the empty sky. There was no sign of life, no movement. No sound except for the quiet hum coming from the old Cums Tower. Jacob Hale, a human engineer, sat inside a small, heated shelter built into the rock. He was alone, far from Earth, on a planet nobody cared about anymore. This world had once been a science outpost, then abandoned after the last war. Now, Jacob used it as a scrapyard, collecting old tech and trading parts. He liked the silence, the peace, the cold, until tonight his Cums panel beeped at first. He thought it was a glitch, just interference from a solar storm, but the sound repeated again and again and again. It wasn't noise, it was a signal, weak, broken, almost like a whisper, but it was real. Jacob leaned closer, adjusting the frequency through static. He heard a voice, soft, tired, afraid. Help. Please. Still alive. His heart skipped. No one else should be here. He ran the signal through his old scanner. It was coming from deep under the ice ridge, about 2 kilometers north. Could be an old emergency beacon, he said too. Himself, or a trap. Still, something inside told him he had to check. He put on his thermal suit, grabbed his scanner, and stepped into the snow. The world outside was frozen solid. Every step crunched beneath his boots. The icy wind slapped his face through the helmet, but he kept walking. The scanner pointed him toward a large rock formation underneath the snow. His eyes caught something strange, a hidden hatch, almost invisible. He cleared the snow and pressed his hand against the old metal. The door didn't open at first, but after a few tries, the lock clicked and released. A staircase led down into darkness. His flashlight flickered as he descended. The walls were lined with strange markings, not human, not any language he knew. At the bottom, there was a chamber, lab maybe, or a vault, and in the center of the room, a cryopod covered in dust. The pod was still active, barely, lights blinking weakly. Inside, he saw a girl, pale skin, silver hair floating in the liquid, long ears, delicate body. She didn't look human, but she didn't look dangerous either. She looked peaceful and very, very old. Jacob touched the glass. A faint blue glow responded to his fingerprint. Suddenly, the pod hissed, steam rising. The glass slid open slowly, releasing a soft, warm mist. The girl gasped, her eyes fluttering open bright. Glowing purple eyes, her lips moved, trying to speak, but no words came out. She coughed, tried again, then whispered in a broken voice, "Please, don't hurt me. I'm the last one left." Jacob stood frozen. He had expected a body. Maybe a machine, not this. She looked at him with fear and hope all mixed together. He lowered his helmet so she could see his face. "It's okay," he said gently. "You're safe now." The girl reached toward him, her fingers shaking. "My name, Selah." She whispered, "Are you human?" Jacob nodded slowly. "Yes, I'm human." Selah closed her eyes for a moment, tears running down her cheeks. "I waited. So long, I thought. No one would come." Her body was weak, too. "Sit up." Jacob gently wrapped her in a thermal blanket and carried her out of the pod. As he held her, he could feel her bones, so thin, her skin cold. She had been asleep for centuries, maybe more. Back in his shelter, he hooked her to his medpack, trying to stabilize her. Selah looked around, confused by the lights and tech. Jacob brought her warm water, and she sipped it slowly. "Where am I?" she asked softly. "You're on Glia 7, Jacob replied, "a frozen planet near the edge of the system." "Then it's true," she said, her voice breaking. "I am truly alone." Jacob didn't know what to say. He had many questions. Who she was, what species, why she was buried under the ice. But for now, one thing was clear. This girl wasn't a threat. She was someone left behind by time itself, and her eyes held a secret he had not yet understood, a secret that would change his life forever. The small shelter buzzed with soft machines, keeping the freezing world outside at bay. Jacob sat near the heater, watching the strange alien girl sleep under thick blankets. Her chest moved slowly, her skin still pale, but warmer now. She looked fragile, like glass ready to crack. Yet there was something deep in her face, something that had seen pain. Time and silence. After hours, her eyes opened again. Jacob leaned forward, careful not to scare her. "Can you hear me?" he asked. She blinked slowly, then gave a small nod. "Yes." Her voice was soft, as if she hadn't spoken for 100 years. "I'm Jacob," he said gently. "Human engineer. I found you under the ice." The girl stared at him, then whispered, "My name is Sayla." Jacob smiled, trying to make her feel safe. "Sayla. That's a nice name." Her eyes filled with tears, but she wiped them away quickly. "I didn't think anyone would ever say it again," she said, her hands shaking. "I was the last of the Myalari." Jacob's face tightened. He had heard the name Myalari before, long ago in forgotten history logs. A powerful alien race, peaceful and intelligent, who vanished from the galaxy centuries ago. "Your people, they're gone?" he asked, his voice low. She nodded slowly. "Yes, long gone. I was put in sleep to wait for someone, anyone who could help." Jacob looked down, unsure what she meant. He offered her a warm drink, which she sipped carefully, her hands trembling. "How long were you in that pod?" he asked. "I don't know," she said. "Many star cycles. Everything changed. The sky is different." She closed her eyes, then whispered, "I think I have been alone for over 400 years." Jacob felt a deep chill that had nothing to do with the cold outside. 400 years asleep, alone, forgotten under the ice. "How did you survive?" he asked. "Our scientists created a special sleep," she said. "They made me the last hope. If I could find a compatible being, I could restore our kind." Jacob froze. "Compatible being?" he asked, confused. Sayla looked at him, her glowing purple eyes full of pain. "Our race could no longer reproduce," she said. "We became sterile, broken. We created a program to search the stars for any life form that matched our genetic rhythm." Her voice broke again. "You are the first one it found." Jacob sat back, stunned. "You're saying humans and Myalari, we match?" Sayla nodded, not fully. "But enough," she said. "Enough to try. Enough to hope." Jacob ran his hand through his hair, unsure what to say. "I'm not a scientist," he said. "I'm just a mechanic, a salvager." "You're alive," she said softly. "You're here. That's all that matters." They sat in silence for a moment, only the soft hum of machines filling the room. Then Sayla spoke again. "I don't want to force you," she said. "I only ask. Please don't let my people vanish completely." Her voice shook. Her hands curled into fists. "I've seen whole worlds vanish. Stars die. But losing a culture, a memory, a voice, that is the true death." Jacob looked at her, this strange girl who had slept through centuries. She didn't speak like a warrior or a ruler. She spoke like someone who had carried sorrow alone for far too long. He felt something strange in his chest, respect, maybe even pity, but also something warmer. "You don't even know me," he said. "I know your kind didn't leave me to die," she replied, her eyes locking with his. "You stayed. You helped. You listened." Before Jacob could answer, a sharp sound came. From the scanner on the wall, an alert, blinking red. Jacob stood up quickly and checked the screen. "Another signal," he said. "Not from you, not from me. Something is coming. Sayla's face turned pale again. "They followed me," she whispered. "The ones who hunted us. They feared what we were." Jacob frowned. "Who are they? Machines? Hybrids?" "They destroyed our last cities," she said. "If they find me, they will finish their work." Jacob's shelter suddenly felt smaller, colder, and less safe. "We need to move," he said. "They'll be here in hours, if not less." Sayla looked at him, afraid, "But I can't walk far. I'm still weak." Jacob grabbed his gear. "Then I'll carry you," he said firmly. "We'll find a place to hide. I won't let them take you." Sayla smiled weakly. "I waited hundreds of years. And I was found by a human willing to carry me." She reached for his hand, her skin warm now. Maybe my people were right. Maybe hope was not lost. Jacob held her hand gently. He didn't know what the future held, but something deep inside told him this was no longer just a rescue. It was the beginning of something much bigger. Jacob placed Sayla carefully inside the old crawler vehicle. The engine groaned as it came to life, shaking off years of ice and silence. Snow swirled outside the small windshield as they began moving away from the shelter. Behind them, the scanner still flashed red something, or someone was tracking the signal. Sayla held a blanket tightly around herself, her eyes focused on the white wasteland outside. "Where are we going?" she asked in a soft voice. "There's an old science bunker not far from here," Jacob replied, gripping the controls. "It's buried deep in the cliffs, hard to detect from orbit. They might miss it." She nodded slowly, her body still. Weak but her mind sharper now. Jacob glanced at her, unsure how to ask what had been haunting his mind since she spoke those words. "You could help me restore my kind." "Sayla," he said, keeping his voice steady, back in the shelter. "You said something about my DNA being compatible?" She turned to look at him. Kay said quietly yes. She said quietly, "Your biology, your genetic pattern. It matches parts of the ancient Myalari genome." Jacob blinked. "But humans and Myalari are from different parts of the galaxy." Sayla smiled gently. "Still, we are not so different." She reached into her cloak and pulled out a small device. "Oval and metallic. This is a genetic key," she said. "Before I was placed in the pod, our scientists encoded it with the core of our species. Our memories, our traits, our potential." Jacob watched as she tapped it against her wrist. And a soft blue light spread over her skin. A projection appeared in the air, 2 DNA strands, rotating side by side. One was elegant and flowing, alien in shape. The other human, familiar, but in the center. They connected, shared points glowing like stars. "I don't understand," Jacob whispered. "We searched every corner of known space," Sayla said, "but all species failed. None matched closely enough to carry our legacy forward." She paused, her voice lower now, until you, Jacob, stared at the spinning strands. "Feeling strange? I'm just a mechanic," he said. "I fix broken drones and old engines. I don't even have a family." "But your body holds something rare," Sayla said, "a chance. A seed that could give my people a second life." He was quiet for a long moment, then asked, "Why me? Why humans?" Sayla looked away, her voice filled with ancient sorrow. "Because humans adapt, survive, grow. Even in pain." She turned to him again. "That's what the Myalari lost. The will to change, the will to fight for life." Jacob gripped the wheel tighter. A part of him wanted to believe this was a dream, some strange vision caused by isolation and too much time alone. But her eyes, her voice, the signal, it was all too real. "And if I say no, ask, then I will." "Understand," she replied. "I won't ask again." He didn't reply. But his heart was full of questions and fears. The crawler reached the cliffs, and he parked near a frozen cave wall. He activated a hidden panel, and a thick stone door opened slowly. Revealing an ancient lab deep in the rock, they entered quickly, and the door sealed behind them, cutting off the wind. Inside, it was dark and quiet, but the lights flickered on as Jacob activated the power core. Old systems hummed back to life. Screens lit up and warmth filled the air. Sayla sat on a soft seat, breathing slowly. Her strength was returning, but her time was short. Jacob walked over and handed her a scanner. "You said your people created life. Can you show me how it works?" Sayla looked at the scanner. Then, at him. "It's not about machines," she said. "It's about trust, about connection." She touched her heart. "We did not use love as humans do, but we believed in something stronger: preservation of memory." Jacob lowered his head. He remembered his lost brother, his old home on Earth, the wars that had changed everything. He understood memory, and he understood pain. "All right," he said at last. "Tell me what needs to be done." Sayla smiled, her eyes softening. "There is time," she said, "but not much." Suddenly, a loud beep echoed through the lab. Jacob turned to the monitor. Something was moving fast through the snow outside. It wasn't a storm, it was a ship. "They found us," Sayla whispered, her face pale again. "They are not here to negotiate, Jacob," she added. "They are here to erase me, Jacob's." Jaw clenched. "They'll have to go through me first." He moved to the defense console and began activating old security drones. As lights flickered to red, he glanced back at Sayla. "If we survive this, I'll help you," he said. She nodded slowly. "If we survive, we start something new." And just like that, the fate of two lost species became one. The cave trembled slightly as the scanners picked up vibrations from above. Jacob stared at the screen, his fingers flying over the old console. 3 objects were closing in fast, their engines barely visible through the storm. But they were not natural, not friendly. They were hunters. "They're tracking the signal you sent," Jacob muttered. Sayla stood behind him, her eyes cold with memory. "They always come." Silent, without warning, without mercy, her voice was calm. But Jacob saw the fear hiding behind it. "They were the ones who ended the Myalari," she added, "one planet at a time." Jacob locked the outer gate and activated the bunkers. Defense systems, old auto turrets, long unused. Word into position, blinking red. "I didn't think this place still had teeth," he said. Sayla placed her hand on the wall, and faint lines glowed beneath her fingers. Myalari tech was designed to sleep, like I did, until needed. Suddenly, one of the approaching crafts fired a pulse. The screen shook as the outer wall was struck. "We don't have long," Jacob said, pulling her toward the back of the lab. "This way, deeper inside, more layers of rock between us and them." They ran through narrow tunnels filled with dust and silent machines. In one room, rows of pods lined the walls, empty, lifeless. "Others were meant to sleep beside me," Sayla whispered, "but they never made it." Jacob looked at her. "You really were the last." She nodded. "And now they want to erase even that." Another blast shook the walls, and part of the tunnel collapsed behind them. Jacob coughed through the dust and kept pulling Sayla forward. They reached the core chamber, where the energy generator still glowed a dull blue. He sealed the door with a heavy lock and turned to her. "Tell me what we're dealing with." Sayla took a deep breath. "They were called the Varnock," she said, "but they no longer have names. Only purpose." She sat down, her voice growing distant. "They were once like Ascurius smart, but they gave up their identity for power." Her hands trembled. "They fused their minds with machines, their hearts with code. They believed emotion was weakness." Jacob listened carefully. "They feared us, because the Myalari kept something they couldn't understand: hope. So they destroyed it," he said slowly. Sayla nodded. "They believe memory is dangerous, that heritage breeds rebellion. So they erase it. Another loud boom echoed through the walls, this time much closer, armors breaking. Jacob said, "If they breach the core, we're done." He looked around the room, his eyes falling on a dusty control panel. Then, to a strange black pod in the corner, half buried in debris. "What's that?" he asked. Sayla stood up and moved toward it. "That is, Seed Vault," she said. "Inside is all that remains of Myalari culture. Our songs, our language, our history, and the designs to start again." Jacob stepped closer. "Can we move it?" Sayla shook her head. "It's too old, too heavy. It must be protected where it stands." Jacob clenched his jaw. "Then I'll protect it." He opened the defense console and activated manual targeting. "You're not trained for this," Sayla said softly. "I've survived pirate raids, ice storms, and faulty reactors." Jacob replied, "I can handle this." He handed Sayla a small comms device. "If I don't come back, you find a way to send that Seed Vault to a safer world." Sayla looked at him, shocked. "You'd die for something that isn't even yours." Jacob smiled. "It is mine now," he said, "because you trusted me." Suddenly, the lights flickered as the power grid was hit. Jacob kissed her forehead without thinking, then ran through the door, shotgun in hand, closing it behind him. Alone in the hallway, he faced the dark tunnel where metal footsteps echoed closer and closer. The first hunter appeared, tall, silver, faceless, with blades 4 arms. Jacob fired, and the blast threw sparks into the air. Another came from the side, and he dodged just in time. He fought hard, using every trick he knew: grenades, traps, power surges, but there were too many. Back in the core room, Sayla watched the screens. Tears fell silently as she saw Jacob falling. Rising and fighting again, she placed her hand on the Seed Vault and whispered, "Don't let this be the end." Suddenly, one of the lights turned green. The vault system had recognized her presence. A panel opened, revealing a hidden console one that required 2 life signatures. "Jacob," she whispered, "you unlocked it." The system pulsed with new energy, and the room filled with light. From inside the vault, soft blue streams rose and wrapped around her body. It wasn't just a container of memory, it was alive, and now it had chosen her as its last living queen. The air inside the bunker was hot now, filled with smoke and sparks. The Varnock had breached the outer tunnels, their weapons slicing through stone and steel like paper. Jacob was bleeding from his shoulder, but he kept fighting. Every shot he fired bought just a few more seconds. Every second meant Sayla might live. He had rigged old defense drones to explode when touched. He had set off power surges to short-circuit their sensors. But still, they kept coming, slow, cold, and endless. They didn't feel pain. They didn't fear death. They only knew one thing: erase the last Myalari. Meanwhile, Sayla stood in the glowing chamber of the Seed Vault. Her body was surrounded by soft blue light, floating like water in the air. She was changing, awakening. The Myalari knowledge was flowing into her mind, ancient languages, science, memories of thousands of lives. But it was too much, too fast. She dropped to her knees, clutching her head. "Jacob, help. I can't hold it," she whispered, back in the hallway. Jacob heard the voice through the comm device. He looked at the sealed door ahead and knew what he had to do with his last bit of strength. He grabbed the small data core from his belt, the one Sayla had given him earlier. He pressed it into the door lock and whispered, "Save her." The door opened just enough for him to crawl through. Inside, Sayla looked up in shock. "You're alive," she said with tears in her glowing eyes. "Barely," Jacob said with a weak grin. "But I made it." He collapsed near her, coughing hard. Sayla crawled to his side, her hands glowing with blue light. "Don't move," she said. "I can heal some of it." The light from her hands flowed into his body. His wound closed slightly, his breathing steadied. Jacob looked into her eyes and saw something different now. She wasn't just a lost girl anymore. She was something greater, the last queen of a forgotten race. "They're still coming," he said, "and we're out of time." Sayla nodded, "But the seed vault has a final defense. One that only activates if two life forms share a bond." Jacob raised an eyebrow. "Bond?" Sayla leaned closer. "It's not just about DNA. It's about choice, about intention, about life wanting to continue through unity." Jacob reached out and took her hand. "I'm here," he said. "I choose this." The seed vault responded, its inner core pulsing brighter. Above them, the stone ceiling began to shake. The system had activated a final barrier, one that would bury the vault deep underground. It would seal it for generations, keeping the Myalari legacy safe. But only one of them could stay inside. The other would have to lead the attackers away. Jacob stood slowly, his voice calm. "You're the key, Sayla. You stay." She grabbed his hand, her eyes full of panic. "No. I just found you. I won't lose you now." Jacob smiled sadly. "You won't, not really. You'll carry a part of me." He stepped toward the outer door. Blood dripping from his arm, Sayla stood too, her hands trembling. "I was never meant to love," she whispered. "But now I understand." Jacob turned one last time. "Then don't let that love die," he said. "Live, Sayla." For both of us, he opened the door and faced the tunnel where the Varnak were approaching. He fired his last round, screamed a challenge, and then ran into the darkness, leading them away. His voice echoed behind him. "Come and get me, metal freaks." Sayla dropped to her knees as the vault began to close. Tears ran down her cheeks, but she stayed still. The light from the seed vault surrounded her, sealing her in safety. The stone door closed, layer by layer, silence returned. But inside her, something new began to grow. A soft pulse, a rhythm, a child. Not pure Myalari, not fully human, but something in between. A bridge between two species. A future. Sayla placed her hand on her belly and whispered, "Jacob, your light lives on." Deep underground, far from war, the seed vault glowed with new energy, and above, the storm howled, but something had changed for the first time in centuries. The Myalari had a future again. Time passed slowly in the dark womb of the seed vault. There were no clocks, no stars, no wind, only silence. And the soft blue light that pulsed gently in the walls. Sayla sat cross-legged in the center chamber, her hands resting on her belly. Her eyes glowed faintly, not with fear anymore, but with something deeper purpose. The vault kept her safe, but it also changed her. Day by day, she felt her body becoming stronger. She could feel the baby growing inside her, but it was more than just a child. It was a symbol. A union of two species, long thought incompatible, human and Myalari. Jacob. And Sayla, when she closed her eyes, she could still hear his voice, see his smile, feel his hands trembling when he said goodbye. Sometimes she cried, sometimes she whispered to the child, "Your father was brave. He gave everything so you could live." The seed vault had not just stored knowledge, it had tested her. Each day she faced mental trials, visions of old Myalari memories. Some were beautiful green cities, flying towers, children laughing. Others were dark war, fire, the death of her people. She endured them all. And with each memory, she grew wiser. The vault slowly opened its systems to her. She learned to control it with thought, to speak through light. Old Myalari language returned to her lips. She sang songs lost to time, and as she did, the walls echoed back alive. But even deep underground, she sensed a change above the planet. Trembled one night, not from machines, but from a storm of fire. She sat quietly and whispered, "They're still fighting." Even now. Then one day, something different happened. The seed vault showed her a projection grainy, flickering. It was from the surface. A ship, not Varnak, not Myalari, but human. A scouting drone had picked up the final energy burst Jacob had released before disappearing into the storm. Now, Earth had found it, and they were coming. Sayla stood in silence, watching the blinking lights. More humans would soon arrive. She wondered, would they understand her? Fear her? Blame her? She was the last of a dead race, and the mother of something entirely new. She touched her belly and whispered, "They won't take you from me. I'll protect you the way your father protected me." The vault gave her one final gift, the awakening. A deep pulse traveled through her body, like the planet itself had breathed into her. Her skin glowed gently, her voice deeper now, her thoughts clearer. She felt a strength rise inside Hercom. Powerful, ancient. The legacy of the Myalari flowed fully into her. She was not just a survivor, she was their final queen. New clothes formed over her body, woven from living light. Symbols of old royalty danced across her arms. Her voice could now command the seed vault systems with a whisper. The child inside her pulsed with warmth, a heartbeat made of two. World Sayla stood tall in the chamber, no longer trembling, no longer broken. Her voice echoed softly through the chamber. "I am Sayla of the Myalari, and I remember everything up above." The human ship landed near the remains of the old bunker. Engineers and soldiers stepped out, surprised by the ruins. They found Jacob's old crawler, his tools, his logs. They read his notes about a girl under the ice. They found no body, only the empty stone where Jacob made his final stand. But the data logs showed one clear message: protect her. She's the future. As they explored the planet, seismic readings led them to the mountain cave. A strange glow came from beneath the rocks. And then, to their shock, the mountain split open. Slowly, a path revealed itself from within the eighth blue light. A figure walked forward, not human, not alien, but both. Sayla stepped into the sunlight for the first time in years. Her glowing eyes blinked softly at the sky. Behind her, the seed vault closed again. Hidden until needed, the humans raised their weapons in fear. But she lifted her hand, and the air shimmered with peace. "I mean no harm," she said, her voice clear and smooth. "I am the last of my kind, and the first of something new." The leader stepped forward, stunned. "What? What are you?" Sayla smiled gently. "I am the memory of the past, and the hope of the future." In her arms, she carried the unborn child of two worlds, and as the humans lowered their weapons, the galaxy took its first breath in a new era. The human team stood frozen as Sayla walked forward. Her feet touched the snow like she belonged to the land itself. Her glowing robe moved gently in the breeze, her silver hair catching the sunlight, and in her arms, a soft blue light wrapped around her belly. She was no longer just an alien girl. She was the living bridge between two broken histories. Colonel Reyes, the leader of the team, stepped forward cautiously. He had read Jacob's logs, seen the pictures, watched the old man's final recordings. He had not believed them not fully, but now, standing in front of this being who looked both ancient and new, he knew Jacob had told the truth. "What happened here?" he asked quietly. Sayla looked at him with calm, tired eyes. "A man gave his life so a memory could live," she replied, "and a future could be born." The colonel lowered his weapon slowly. Sayla continued, "My name is Sayla, last of the Myalari, and now the first of something new." She gently placed her hand on her belly. "This child carries the DNA of two species, not through violence, not through force, but through hope." There was silence as the team processed her words. Some still looked unsure, others awestruck, but no one spoke against her. The youngest soldier among them, a woman named Kira, stepped forward. If this child lives, what does it mean for the galaxy? Sayla gave a gentle smile. It means the wars didn't take everything from us, she said. It means we can start again. The humans offered her shelter, food, and rest. But Sayla asked to stay on the frozen world a little longer. This is where he lived, she said softly. This is where he gave his light. So they built a small outpost near the vault, not to control it, but to protect it. And Sayla made it her home. There she grew stronger. And the child within her grew too. Months passed, and the galaxy began to whisper. Stories spread across human colonies. A myth reborn, a queen of a forgotten species, carrying the first child. Of two worlds, some feared her, others worshipped her, but no one could ignore her. Representatives from Earth came. Scientists, diplomats, leaders. They asked her many questions. Offered her places on great planets, cities of gold and light. But she refused. I will raise this child where it began, she said, among snow and memory. And then, one quiet morning under soft falling snow, Sayla gave birth to the first of the new. A baby with silver skin and human eyes, tiny ears like hers, and a small heartbeat that pulsed with strange, peaceful energy. She named the child Jaylin. Combining Jacob and a Myalari word for light, he cried softly when born, not in fear, but in warmth, as if he already knew he was loved. The humans stood in silence, watching the beginning of a new age. The galaxy changed that day. Jaylin became a symbol of peace, of survival, of what could happen when enemies reached out instead of striking. Other species who once feared humans now sent envoys, asking about the child. Old enemies began talking again. New alliances formed slowly, built on the idea that maybe, just maybe, the past could become the seed of something better. Sayla spent her days teaching Jaylin about both worlds. She showed him Myalari memories through the seed vault and Jacob's logs, where the human voice still laughed, joked, and cried. She often told her son, "You were born from sacrifice, but you live to inspire." One night, years later, Jaylin sat under the stars. Now a young boy, he looked up and asked, "Will I ever meet my father?" Sayla smiled sadly, brushing his hair. "You already have," she said. "He's inside your heart, in every choice you make, every time you help someone or protect what matters." That's him. Jaylin looked at the stars again. "I'll make him proud," he said. Sayla nodded slowly. "I know you will." And in that moment, on a forgotten, frozen world, under a sky full of stars and stories, the galaxy held its breath. Because from one dying signal in the silence, from one last heartbeat in the dark, came the birth of something greater. A child of memory, a child of hope, the first of the new.